when I was rejected from my first song, and I started buying music books. So I would
Wow.
buy this book. It was called This Business of Music. It was thick, you know. But I would read that book. It was certain areas it would tell you about publishing, the writer's share, your publishing share, you know, the different compositions. There's, you know, like the song composition, the sound recording, different parts of the song, you know, how the income comes in and everything. So I would read each one of those sections, and that really saved me when I came to New York and started, you know, all these contracts started coming. I was like, wait a minute. And if I didn't read it in the book, I would tell them. I was like, that's not how that goes. I didn't read that. They were like, what? Who told you that? I'm like, I read it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what? You're I've probably interviewed over 70 guests, and you're one of the first who actually said, "Yeah, I knew, I read about this before going in." Everyone else was just sign away, and then 3 albums
Oh,
later, it's like they had to
no,
go.
no. I remember this engineer I work with, producer I work with, and he says to me, we had a production deal, and he says to me, well, you know, because of the publishing and the writer's share, I was a writer, so I would get the writer's share. The publisher, we would split that. But anyway, he wants everything to come to him, the checks, I'm saying. And then he would cut me a check and send it to me. Again, I didn't read that in the book. So I'm like, that's not how that goes. Why can't they just send me ASCAP BMI or whoever? Why can't they just send my check direct to me? And then they send your check to you. Oh, you don't trust me? I'm like, no, it's nothing about trust. That's just how it goes. He said, oh, okay.
Wow, oh my goodness, it's like.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that you've said that, and you know, and it still goes on today. A lot of
oh
new
yeah,
artists, hearing all the stories, are still
yeah.
going in blind and still just seeing us the checks and then and giving
Hmm.
away everything.
Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, so how did you then transition from, you know, after studying and then and that desire to be a songwriter and being in the studio to actually becoming a recording artist?
Well, this is so I did a demo. I recorded a demo in Rochester, my hometown. And the demo had, all in all, come into my life. It wasn't easy.
Wow.
And I think Walk Away was on it. And so I had made friends in college. And she lived in Brooklyn. And so we would go, you know, back and forth. Summertime, I'd, you know, go home with her family, and we would, you know, go back and forth. But so in the meantime, I was making friends. She had friends, and she was introducing me because she knew I loved music, and she would
Okay.
introduce me to different people. And so I met an engineer, and he needed a vocalist to sing, to demo some of his songs, and I needed a recording studio to record my demos. And he knew Will Sokoloff over at Sleeping Bag Records, and so, as you know, they call it bartering, free studio time. He would give me time, and I would sing the vocals for him
Okay.
on his demos. And so he was like, "Yeah, Joyce, these are pretty good songs. I got a label. They might be interested." I was like, "Okay, take it." And so he took it over to Sleeping Bag, and they heard the demo, and they signed me. They liked it. That's how I was like, I said, "Okay, well, maybe I can do this." So, and that's what happened. And all in
Wow.
all, yeah, all in all was the first single that I recorded with Sleeping Bag Records.
And you said you were recording a demo as to shop the songs around, or what was
Right.
the idea?
Mhm. Yeah, to shop at the different labels.
Oh,
To shop.
for them to give it to an artist to sing and
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and they liked my voice, so I was like, "Oh, okay."
oh, was it that easy to convince you to be in front of the camera, to be a recording artist? Just or were you a little hesitant about, no, yeah, I don't want the limelight as much as that?
I didn't think about that. I just didn't think about it. They said studio. I'm like, I'm there. Really, I didn't think about it.
Wow. And then how much of your music pop business book did you then apply to when, Sleeping Bags came with their contract? Did you go through it and
Oh, at that point, I had to get an attorney. I had to get an entertainment attorney at that point. And but the blessing about it is I understood what was in my contract, and what I didn't understand, I would ask my attorney, and he would explain it to me.
and I think some of the issues the artists in the 90s had was the attorneys were very much aligned with the labels. So they would
Mhm.
say, "Oh, it's a standard deal, that's what everyone gets."
Oh no, thank God I didn't have that at all. I had some real. I was really blessed. I had really good people around me. Really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
And was Sleeping Bag surprised how much you knew and how thorough you were and like, oh, what's this?
Well, how did actually Sleeping Will, he introduced me to my first management. And see, my manager knew the Boza Rivers, and he knew, there was it's like BISLA, they call it. It's a group of Black entertainment attorneys. So
Oh,
he knew all these attorneys already, high profile attorneys. So anybody he chose from his book was a high power attorney. So
wow.
yeah, yeah.
My
So
goodness.
yeah.
I mean, as I said, I went to college in the US in the 90s, but grew up
Hmm.
in the UK. But then in the mid 80s, I went to high school in Nigeria. And, I think when I talk to my guests, especially those from the 80s who were big in the 80s, I sometimes wonder if they realize when their songs go big and it's crossed over to, not just the UK, but to places like Nigeria and rest of Africa. Were you surprised how successful your, when my all in all and come into my life? But I mean, especially your first single, how well it took off.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. I was surprised. I was very surprised. But the thing about it is, like, I really didn't realize how big the song was because I was working so, and I don't think I really had time for it to really like soak in. Like, you have a international hit because I was just working.
Oh, when you say working, I mean, you had your
I was traveling, doing shows in New York or the U.S. I should say, and when All in All, nobody expected All in All to do what it did. Even the DJs, I remember Will telling me some of the DJs were like, "Yeah, it's all right. That's a nice little song." And yeah, so so when the song blew up the way it did, is now I'm traveling. At first, slowly, like slow pace, and then all of a sudden, every week or all week, I'm traveling here, there, and I remember it seemed like every Tuesday I was on my way back to the UK to tape Top of the Pops, and I mean, oh my goodness, I was doing a lot of moving. I was doing a lot of moving. It was crazy. I would leave a show in New York or Miami. New York and Miami were the hot spots, and I would go straight to the UK from the airport, go to the TV studio, record all day, film, for Top of the Pops or whatever TV show it would be. Go to get dinner, get dressed, and do a club that night.
Wow.
Get back on the plane to New York or wherever I was going next. It just starts all over again.
Wow, that doesn't sound like fun. Or was it in those early days?
Well, when I got on stage, I had fun, but yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. I mean, I don't regret it. I'm thankful for it. And at the time, I was much younger, and so it's just let's just do it. And I
Yeah.
just did what I had to do. If they said, okay, you're scheduled to be here at certain this time, I was there at that time.
Wow. I mean, I think one of the things is fascinating because you started talking about wanting to be a songwriter mainly, and how common or how unusual was it for a new artist to be given the reins to write the entire album?
I I don't know. I don't know. You know, I came to Sleeping Bag and I had my whole album already. And that was another thing. So in between the shows, I was trying to finish an album. And so because All in All came out and then Lifetime Love, and they were rushing for it. They needed another single. Then Come Into My Life, now they needed an album. So I was trying, we did it and make the videos. So we had
Yeah.
to do all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, yeah, apart from Say Stevie, I mean, I'm sure there was a few others, but it was not very, yeah, as I said, it was most times the labels don't trust and they say, okay, we'll bring in Burt Bacharach or Diane Warren and all these people to come in and write the hits. How, I guess, Sleeping Bags must have been a small independent label. So did
Yeah.
you feel as if that benefited you as a creator of music?
I think it did. I'm sure it did, you know. And the fact that the first single that I released was a hit helped
Yeah.
an awful lot. So, you know, and the second one, it got fairly good reception as well. So that helped a lot. I think if the first song I did was a flop, they probably wouldn't have trusted me with anything else.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know.